Okay, so what I did this time was made this in a skippable ed puzzle, so that you can click to, if you see where the questions are at the bottom, you can click ahead. Every 2 questions is a different way to solve, I guess. So this first page is 1 through 6 because these were all of the multiple choice ones that you have to do any work for. However, the next little question you're going to see, or I guess I should say the first one, is going to be 7 through 8. The next one after that will be 9 through 10, 11 through 12. So you can skip ahead so you don't have to like click randomly in the video and figure out where is the question that I'm looking for, or watch the whole thing. So again, if you look at the bottom where you see little bubbles to the questions you can click on, click ahead. Every 2 questions is another little bubble, I guess I should say, at the bottom of the video playing bar. But again, 1 through 6 is here. So once more, the first little question you're going to see is me talking about 7 through 8. Okay, so 1 through 6, these are kind of hard to correct. Honestly, I wasn't quite sure how I wanted you guys to do them. For 1 through 2, this was just identifying the shape. So to correct these, just copy the correct name and try and explain why it is that shape. For example, it's a pyramid if it comes to a point. It's a prism if it has 2 flat bases, yeah? It's a cone if it has a circle and comes to a point. It's a cylinder if it has 2 flat bases. Try and explain. It's okay if it's not a great explanation because, again, it's kind of tricky how to correct that. Same with 3 through 4 and 5 through 6. Copy the correct answer and then try and explain either why what you put was incorrect, or try and explain again why the answer that is correct, why it is correct. So for example, for 5 through 6, none of those 2 answers had to either be cone, cylinder, or sphere. Because we're rotating, we create rounded objects. You can't rotate something and create a squared off edge, like a cube. So for 5 through 6, if you put cube, for example, or a pyramid or something like that, we can't do that. It's only the rounded shapes for 5 through 6 because, again, we rotate. That causes curved edges. So try your best for 1 through 6, but it's not a huge deal. Like I said, if your explanation is not great, just make sure you copy down the correct answer at least. Okay, 7 through 8. So these 2 were volume of prisms. So these were the 3 possible pictures you could have gotten. So I'm just kind of showing you depending on what your 2 questions were. You do need to rework these. So from here on out, the rest of these require work. So make sure you rework them. So depending on the shape, if you got this one, this was your formula. A lot of you guys, I think, were just picking the wrong formula because literally all you had to do for this question was multiply these 3 numbers together. And that's it. I think a lot of you guys took the third. That's for a pyramid. And so you took a third of it. I'm not quite sure what happened. So it's literally for this one, it's just these 3 numbers get multiplied together. That's the length, the width, and the height. For these, it's almost that case, but it's a half as well. So for the triangular prism, it would have been, this is the base and the height of the triangle, and this is the height of the prism. So you would have multiplied these 3 together and then taken half as well. Over here, this one was a little bit trickier. If you got this question, we only need the base of the triangle, the height of the triangle, and the height of the prism. W is none of those. This slanted side here is not considered a height, and in this case, it's not considered a base. X is the base of the triangle. Y is the height of the triangle. Z is the height of the prism. So you should not have used W at all. Again, you just would have multiplied these 3 numbers together and then taken half, and that's it. So those were your 3 possible problems you could have gotten. So go back to your test, see if you can figure out what you did wrong and try and rework it to get the right answer. Okay, so 9 and 10. So these were both cylinders. Once again, guys, I'm not sure how we were getting some of these wrong. I really hope everybody was able to look at these pictures. Now, again, it was either this or it was a question that said, we have a cylinder of. But this is the formula. All I can imagine is you never wrote down your formulas, and I don't know why. You knew this whole test was formulas. And if you never wrote them down, The other mistake you could have made is R gets squared. In this case, I know they say W and V. I know that was kind of confusing to some of you guys, but this is the radius. This number gets squared, this number doesn't. So for example, if this said this was 4 and this was 6, my answer would be, now something else you may have made a mistake is that pi needs to become 3.14. We know pi is actually 3.14, and it's a long decimal that keeps going on. You should have multiplied by 3.14 as well. You may have forgotten to do that. Then R, in this case, I'm going to say is 4. R gets squared. This is just R, it gets squared. And then it's just the height. R squared, just the height would be 6. So that would be how you would plug in for a case like this. So go back and see again if you can tell what you did wrong. It's possible you squared the height when you should have squared the radius. It's possible you didn't multiply by 3.14. So both of those questions were that formula, 9 and 10. Okay, 11 through 12, these were both pyramids. Now, one was a rectangular pyramid and one was a triangular pyramid. These formulas are a little bit weird. They are actually based off the prism formulas, but they are a third of what the prism formula is. So if it was this picture here, this is 1/3, and then you multiply all three together. Again, the reason why this is the formula for this picture, the reason why this is a rectangular pyramid is because it's a pyramid because it comes to a point. It's a rectangular pyramid because the base is a rectangle. That's what makes it a rectangular pyramid. So again, you just need to do 1/3 and then multiply these three together. We have the length and the width and the height. For this one, I know this one is weird, but I gave it to you guys this way so you didn't really have to think. Again, I gave you a different formula originally, but it required you to plug in another formula to it. So I already just gave this to you with the formula plugged in for you. So this one, this is a triangular pyramid because it's a pyramid because it comes to a point, and a triangular pyramid because the base is a triangle. So we had in your calculator, you should have done 1/3, 1/2, and then just multiplied all three of those numbers together. Again, this is the base of the triangle. This is the height of the triangle. This is the height of the pyramid. So those three numbers just get multiplied together, times 1/3, times 1/2. Boom, you're done. A lot of people miss that one, I think, because they either picked the wrong formula or, again, just weren't plugging it in correctly. Okay, 13 and 14, these are both cones. So this is the formula we should have used. So once again, things to be careful for is that we don't forget about the 1/3, but pi needs to become 3.14. If you did not multiply by 3.14, you got it wrong. Now, the other thing is that you have to be careful. Notice in this question versus this one, the picture is slightly different. This is the radius. The radius goes just to the center of the circle. So in this question, whatever number they gave you for m, that's the number that would get squared, and then we have the height. However, over here, k is not the radius. K is all of this. So say, for example, if they gave you that k was equal to 6, and I wanted to go plug in, and we'll say j is 10, why not? This is the diameter. You need to take half to get r, to get the radius. So when you went to go plug in up here for r squared, where you're not plugging in 6, you'd plug in half of that. So you would plug in 3. And again, that gets squared times the height is 10. So that's how that situation would get plugged in. Again, over here, this is r. It's only to the half. So both those questions, definitely double check and see what you did wrong. And if you can't see on any of these guys, please just let me know and I'll help you figure out what you're doing wrong. 15 and 16, this one, guys, is really hard for me to understand why you guys got these ones wrong because there was no gimmies, or there was no gotchas, I should say. It is a gimme. There was no gotcha. in both questions, they may not have given you a picture, but they said it's a sphere and here's R. There's no other like, what's special here that I have to do? Nope. You just use this formula, 4/3 times 3.14. Once again, you are plugging that in for pi, times R to the third. So if R was 2 to the third, and that's what I'd plug in my calculator. So with those, again, just little mistakes with plugging in or not writing your formulas down, that's all you had to do for 13 and 16. Yeah, there was no having to think around, which formula should I use, or what's the R? Both those pieces of information were given to you. And the last thing, 17 and 18. So these were density problems. There was 3 possible problems you could have gotten. Here is 2 of them, or well, 1 of them. And then there was 2 population density formulas you may have gotten. So again, let me know if you're not sure what to do for yours. I only kind of talked about these a bit more generally. But the formula is slightly different depending on which questions you got. Again, it was possible you didn't need this formula if you didn't get this question. You may have gotten the 2 population density questions. So if this was your question, so density equals mass divided by volume is the formula you should have used. But here's the thing, and I gave half credit for this if I realized that you did not realize there was 15 balloons. So this question says, how many kilograms of helium do we should specify here all the balloons contain? I guess all the balloons contain. So you likely, if you got half credit on this, you got 2.5 out of 5, you found the helium for 1 balloon. But they told you a number of for Pete's sakes, how many balloons you have. So you found the density, for Pete's sake, how many kilograms of helium? You found the answer for 1 balloon, we had 15. So, excuse me, so again, using this formula here, this is the density. So we have 0.09. It tells us that each balloon has a volume of 15. So that means if they've given us density and volume, that means you're trying to find the mass. So in all of these questions, all of the helium questions, obviously the numbers change. You're looking for mass and you're given the volume. Now, again, what you should have done here is you get 15 balloons with each having a volume of 15 cubic meters. So our volume is not just 15. It's 15 balloons times they each have a volume of 15. So you would get what that is. You would cross multiply and solve for mass. Again, if you got 2.5, that means you just needed to multiply your answer by how many balloons there were. And that's all you didn't do to get the right answer. Now, again, population density, with this question, guys, this is the formula. There were 2 about Phoenix. Yeah, and depending on how the question was phrased, kind of dictated what you needed to do. Now, population density is measured in people per square mile. So if you read the question and they say something like, Phoenix has 1,000 people per square mile, that is the population density, and that would get plugged in here. If they don't tell you this many people per square mile, they've given you the population instead, and the area they should. So again, look at those 2 questions. What ends up happening is that you are either multiplying or dividing. The way that you can tell is by plugging into this formula. So let me know if you're struggling with those, where to plug in. Again, if a number is labeled this many people per square mile, that is the population density, you would have to plug in here. And that would mean you're either looking for the population or the area, depending on how the question is phrased. So as always, guys, the easiest way to get these cranked out and done is to take a picture and send it to me on Remind, and I can help you out. Or you can message me in the chat and I can pull up your test and take a look as well.